There's a great scene in the movie The Fog of War, and the movie's about Robert McNamara kind of looking back at his life. In the movie, he is 88 years old, and he goes through his life and he talks about when he was the CEO of Ford, which at that time he was the first non-Ford to ever run the company. He talked about running the Defense Department. And having 88 years to reflect on and having the intelligence of Robert McNamara made for a really inspiring movie. Now, this movie, I have no opinion on his politics or his position on politics, but simply a man looking back at his life and noticing what really made it up. And there was a point, it was actually his last point in the entire movie. And he's kind of choking back the tears. His eyes are welling up. There's tears in his eyes. And his final point of the entire movie, and if you haven't seen The Fog of War, I highly suggest you watch it. His final point of the movie is, at the end, you'll find yourself back at the beginning, but with more clarity. Or with clarity. And the reason I bring up Robert McNamara and The Fog of War in this podcast is because we humans, it's so difficult to see the obvious. The complicated, the complex is easy to believe. It's easy to buy into. So when you go to a big box advisor and they say to you, the world of investing is incredibly complicated and incredibly complex. I mean, just look at all the people working here. Look at how many stories are in this building. It's a 50-story building. Look at how nice everyone dresses. Like, it must be really complicated. Look at all the fees we charge. Look how complicated we're creating it. Now, what investors don't get or understand is they're the ones that are creating it. In fact, they are the complication. Growing your money itself is actually incredibly straightforward. And though I'm not waiting until I'm 88 years old, I'm exactly half of Robert McNamara's age. I'm 44. But kind of getting reconnected to what works best, what is most effective in growing people's money, what is the thing that really works. And I want to share with you this idea and one part of this idea with one specific current newsworthy example of why this approach to making a life of a more secure future with more choices, more freedom, more money, more choices to do things, why it comes down to this one idea. Hey everybody, this is RC Peck, and this is my weekend podcast. Thanks so much for being with me. The theme for this weekend is better than news, even quality news. I mean, after all, I'm kind of considering the Wall Street Journal or the New York Times to kind of be more of the quality side of news, but it is still news. They still need to put out information every hour of every day, of every week, of every month, of every quarter, of every year, of every decade, of every century. It's their job to put out information. That's what they do. And so we humans often believe that news is the thing that can help us grow our money better. But actually, it's not. And if you just know what to eliminate and what to look at, then you can grow your money more effectively. Guys, there's something starting or restarting on my computer, but I'm going to just continue recording. That's the problem when you have, I'm running parallels on my Mac, which means I have a PC part to my computer and an Apple part, right? So we believe we need complication, and news is one of those things that complicates. So let's look into this in something very specific that I think many parts of you will find really enlightening and very straightforward. So even if you don't follow the news, which I don't, but I can't help but hearing, I don't know where I even hear it, probably from clients or people talking, there's like a nuclear deal going on. Now, I hopefully pronounced the word nuclear properly, with Iran and the rest of the world. And there's been a lot of conversation around, well, Israel doesn't want it. It's bad for Israel. It's bad for Middle East peace. And I just think that's a bunch of BS. And the reason I think it's a bunch of BS is because what I'm going to show you, right? Because one of the keys to life is finding that one thing, that one piece of information, that one piece of leverage that can give you everything else. And to me, it's price charts. Now, price charts can't tell you everything, obviously, but this is a price chart of the Israeli stock market. And for the last 3 years, the Israeli stock market, not including dividends, is up 55%. And in fact, this year alone, it's basically up about 15%. And it's making new highs. So it's one of the best performing stock markets in the world today, and it's making new highs. So do you think Israelis are really worried about Iran and, this nuclear deal they're putting together? If they were, they're not showing it in how they invest their money. And that's one of the best metrics to know if someone's fearful about the future. Well, look, no one's putting their money into gold. And the only reason gold changes in price is when people's fear changes. So if people are getting more fearful or concerned about the future, then the price of precious metals goes up. And when people have less concern about the future, precious metals goes down. And this has been true for 2,000 years, maybe 4,000 years, maybe 13.4 billion years, as long as the universe has been around. So one of the amazing things I find with price charts is it deletes all the noise, the news, the crap, the BS, and it just tells you, hey, look, things are good. The future's getting brighter for Israel. Clearly that deal that's being put together is good for the Middle East, because you can look at the Israeli stock market and kind of use that as an indicator of how the health of the Middle East is doing. And you can eliminate ISIS and everything else that's going on. Just simply look at the Israeli stock market and go, how are things doing? And the answer is they're doing better. Now, if you're just wondering what the U.S. stock market has done during the exact same time period, the U.S. stock market is up 63% over the last 3 years, not including dividends. And again, clearly the general global market, 45% of the earnings that come from the S&P 500 companies come from overseas. So clearly that's been okay with the rest of the world. Now here is the price chart of the S&P 500. We're looking at a closing price of each week of the S&P 500. And you know what? Even if you look at the last couple inches on the chart, it's just going sideways. I'm not saying it's going to continue going sideways. I'm not saying it's going to go up. I'm not saying it's going to fall. I'm simply saying right now, all it's doing is going sideways. Now, I do know the majority of the time from studying hundreds of years of price charts is most of the time, 82% of the time, the stock market is trending, either trending up or trending down. So going sideways is on the rare side of how the market behaves. So we do know from a statistical or historical point of view that it won't go sideways too much longer. And the longer it does go sideways, the bigger the move will be coming out of that movement. So the question I want you to be able to answer to yourself, and the question that you may be wanting to ask yourself is, what works best? What is the one thing I need to know? And the answer is you need to know whether you should have your money in or out of the stock market, right? You need to know where the highest probable place of putting your money is to protect it for the future. And I'll say this after studying the U.S. stock market going back to 1871, there is no better place to put your money over any 5 to 10 year time period, bar none. Nothing beats the growth of the stock market over any 5-year period. I'll say it beats 99% of things over any 5-year period. And over every 10-year period, it's basically 100%. Pretty amazing, huh? And you can just invest right into it. So what's the takeaway? 3 things I want to leave you with. 1, you want to delete the noise? First of all, stop watching the news. I stopped watching the news in 1997. I stopped listening to KQED and NPR about 2 years ago because it's all negative. And if you want to know really what's going to happen in the future, look at a price chart. Look at the S&P 500. Look at the Israeli stock market if you want to know what's going on in the Middle East. You want to know what's going on in Europe? Look at the German stock market. It will tell you. It's the best thing we have for looking into the future, and it's actually the best entity we have for growing money. over any 5-10 year period, even over almost every 3-year period, it's going to outrun almost everything. So the takeaway, look for that straightforward answer. Look for the one that is so obvious you look around it to things that are more complex and complicated. Hey guys, this is just another step in helping you secure your future and secure your portfolio. Until next time, this is RC Peck. Hey everybody, thanks so much for listening to my podcast. I love sitting down each week and really looking through hundreds of charts and thinking about what is most important. And we always kind of come back to the main theme, is the market going up or down? The main market I look at is the S&P 500. It represents 25% of the world stock markets, generally speaking. And the one thing I've noticed over the years, including me, it's not enough to know what to do. It's not enough to know where to put your money. It's not enough to have the content. It's nice. It makes you sound smart at the gym or the club or the golf course, but it's not enough to have the content. You actually have to implement it. And that's what I do for people. That's what I can help people do. I'm the person they come to so I can implement the strategy for them so their life can have more security, so their life can have more choices. And parts you may be wondering, how can I just make this work? Maybe you don't need to figure it out. Maybe I don't need to figure it out. Maybe we just need to have it be in something that has figured it out already. Yeah? And that's what my one strategy market probability is about. It figured it out. It's not complicated. It's very straightforward. So if you are noticing parts you're interested in saying, hey, you know what, maybe you can just do it for me in a way so it even covers the cost of it. And you may be noticing you want to do that now or not. And if you are, the next step is super straightforward. You just email Patty, Patty @fearlesswealth.com and say, Patty, tell me, put in the subject line, money management, and give her your name, your number, and she'll give you a call and say, this is what we're about. It's a very straightforward conversation. And just notice if parts of you are already wanting to do that. Thanks so much for being in my world. I do appreciate that, and I will speak with you soon.